I've really thought this last week or two about calling in counseling because I had my own sense of imposter syndrome going on. And I really had an opportunity this week to redefine what success looks like to me. And what success looks like is continuing to suit up and show up in the moment, regardless of what's going on, and to have it be imperfect.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Patricia Young, a private practice entrepreneur in San Diego, California. Listen as Patricia talks about building a private practice and putting herself out there in new ways while feeling and expressing vulnerability. Patricia, welcome to Therapist Clubhouse.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited and really kind of nervous and uncomfortable.
I totally get that. I want to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey so far. Can you tell us about who you see in your practice?
Well, I'm going to take a step back and just give you a little bit of a broader picture, and then we can narrow down if you're okay with that. So I worked for a hospital for almost 9 years and planned to stay there till I retired. And then it became very clear that that wasn't where I was supposed to be. This year, I decided to start a practice. I got certified through Medicare to start seeing patients in assisted living facilities and started marketing to them and doing groups and doing weekly meetings, just letting people know who I was. And that really didn't get off the ground. So business one failed. Let's pivot and start business two. So there's an agency in town that does in-home counseling for them in private practice. And that really helped me jump in and get a full caseload and be able to start seeing clients. The learning curve has been very steep because these are patients that are homebound, the clients' patients. They're homebound. They have a lot of chronic medical conditions. They get ill very often. They don't make appointments. It's been a real steep learning curve. February. And then about July, I started working on getting my website set up and were my ideal clients. And so really doing another pivot to build a private practice.
So you're in the middle of a transition right now.
I am. It's been a year of lots and lots of growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you want to fill your practice with now?
What really resonates the most to me are successful women who worry that they're not good enough, very perfectionistic. I just filmed a great promotional video with Ernesto. I use the analogy of, when you're busy spinning those plates, you got to keep those spinning all the time, and there's really not time to focus on the things that matter, and that fear of if you stop and let the plates smash down, what's going to happen. And the analogy that I use is, if you trust that you can stop spinning all those plates, that you get this beautiful mosaic, something new is created that you couldn't have even imagined. I say women because I'm a woman and I know about women. This doesn't mean to preclude men, but I don't have a lot of men coming to me telling me that they worry that they're not good enough. So my focus is women, but really, that sense of if I show you who I really am, I'm holding it together so much to try and look like everything's together. And if you really saw what a hot mess I feel like I am inside, you'd run away screaming.
Amazing. And so this all fits into something I really want to dig into with you, which is self-disclosure. And self-disclosure, not in the therapy room, which is obviously a big deal, but self-disclosure before people get to the therapy room. So self-disclosure in marketing and in, let's say your promotional video or the things that, like this, the things that you're willing to put out there before people actually come and meet you. And so I've been, stalking you a little bit and noticing some cool things that you've been doing, like the promotional video. And also on your About page, you talk about some of the things that you do to take care of yourself. And you talk about working through imposter syndrome yourself. And I'll mention one more thing I love is that I saw on a Facebook Live that you put on your site that you talk about going through vulnerability. And you say in that, just like you did when you and I started talking, you said, in that one, you said, I'm so nervous I could throw up. And I just loved it. I just felt like we don't usually see that. We don't usually get to see that. So my question is, how do you decide what to disclose? How do you, what guides you in that?
I honestly can't tell you. What I can tell you is that I feel like what I feel the most strongly about is really wanting to model what it looks like to show up when you're in the middle of something and you don't feel like you've got it. You and I had spoken before we started recording today, and I've really thought this last week or two about calling and canceling because I had my own sense of imposter syndrome going on. And I really had an opportunity this week to redefine what success looks like to me. And what success looks like is continuing to suit up and show up in the moment, regardless of what's going on, and to have it be imperfect and to maybe spill out a little bit, which is, it's been a year of lots of growth and change and really pushing myself. And there are times when I feel incredibly solid and confident, and I love when I can show up that way. And what's going on for me right now is I'm not feeling that. I'm feeling more insecure. I'm feeling like I'm more needy. I'm a little too much. And I know that that goes on when I'm pushing that growth curve. And that's really where not only the magic happens, but the connection happens. Because we can play this game where you say, "Hey, Patricia, how are you?" And I smile and I go, "I'm fine." And you go, "I'm fine." And we leave and there's no connection.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I really want to be able to model to other therapists and to my clients what it's like to show up when we don't have it all together. That's really where the healing comes from. And I think one of the reasons why I feel so strongly about this is my experience growing up was being told I was too sensitive, I was too needy, I was too. And what I know now is the things that we think are wrong with us is really what's right with us. And I am incredibly sensitive, and that makes me an amazing therapist and a great friend and a partner.
I love that. That's me too. Always definitely was told I was too sensitive and had to embrace that and there wasn't an option to not be sensitive.
Sure.
So had to embrace that and find out that it was a superpower.
Yeah.
But I guess even in me saying that I went through that, it isn't actually that simple, right? It reminds me of what you're talking about right now, that it's actually always still a process. It's not like, okay, now I realized I'm sensitive and that's a superpower. It's more like what you're describing. It's messier and it's more like remembering that day to day and finding yourself in conversations and finding a way to be connected to yourself while being real, right?
Yeah.
And
I've been talking with some friends about this recently because we're all really pushing in our businesses and talking about, lots of people call it different things, but the messy middle. And it's that place when you've left shore, you can't see where you're heading, you're in a dark tunnel. You really can't turn back, whether it's physically or just because what you know now, you really can't go back. And it's a really scary place because sometimes you can't see the light, you can't see the direction. And I believe that this is a process that we go through over and over again in life. And as a therapist, I really work with my clients, kind of letting them know that life is about ebbs and flows, and that when we learn to kind of just ride them through, sometimes less gracefully than others, and that's okay, that's really what the gift is. And I think for some of Facebook, you can see take this class and in 6 easy lessons, you'll have happiness for eternity.
Yeah.
And that's not my experience. It's not my orientation. And I think that it's a great disservice because every time I'd hit a place where I felt solid, I thought, I finally achieved it. I've done everything I can and I've achieved that place. And then I drop out of it and wonder what the heck is wrong. And my perception is that things become so much easier and there's less of a fight and a struggle, and that whole self-judgment of what the heck is wrong, that I'm not in that great place again. What did I do wrong? What do I have to do? As opposed to sometimes it happens and we drop back and we need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. One thing I hate about growth is that when I start feeling comfortable where I am, like let's say in my business, if I start feeling comfortable where I am, then that's great, but it is temporary.
Mm-hmm.
Like it means that because I'm really into growth, it means that I'm about to get uncomfortable again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
whatever level of like exposing myself, whatever level of that I've done and gotten comfortable with, it's about to feel uncomfortable again because I'm going to go further or I'm going to put myself out there in a different way.
Sure.
Yeah. And it sounds like when you talk about these opportunities that you've been, finding yourself in the middle of, like you're really in the middle of that right now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Painfully so.
Yeah.
Painfully and joyfully so.
Yeah.
But, I will tell you that I really believe in self-disclosure with my clients, with the client in mind, not because, I'm having a bad day and I'm spilling out all over. I'm pretty careful about that. I have never had a client tell me it made them feel uncomfortable. What I hear is, it feels so good to hear that other people struggle, and it's so validating and normalizing. I mean, those aren't the words that they use, but that's really the message. And we're therapists, we're humans, we make mistakes. And I think when we can model that appropriately to our clients, it gives them permission to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It feels like you've made a decision or you're making decisions day to day to let some of that out before you meet them. And I'm making an assumption that those decisions are based on thinking about who you serve best and who you want to work with most, and knowing that for those people, it's actually going to be helpful to see some more of you before they even meet you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's about how much healing I've done. If I feel like I'm a hot mess, but really I'm a hot mess with a little H, and I really got it pretty much together. And it's interesting that in starting to do the promotional video and the Facebook Live and the videos on my website, something pretty amazing happened for me, that I know what it's like to live inside my head, but to have an opportunity to see what other people see from the outside in without all the chatter. And it really created a major shift, because I just know from the inside with all of the noise. And to see what it looks like on the outside was incredibly empowering for me. And it really, have a YouTube channel now, and my plan is to do more videos and more Facebook Lives, because I really got a chance to see what other people see that I really was kind of missing the experience of.
What surprised you about that, about what other people saw?
Well, it was interesting because my husband would watch or listen to, a podcast after I'd done it, or a video. And so I'd sit with him, and I guess I was really surprised to see how clear I am. That, I know I run deep. I've worked really hard to try and speak in terms that really resonate with people, and not using a lot of therapeutic terms that end up being walls that people don't really know what you're saying. And I think because I'm pretty transparent, I think that, I feel like I look kind of likable and people can relate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me more about your YouTube channel. What are you doing there?
Because I've been in a little bit more of a pullback space the last couple weeks, I've just not been in a place where I can do videos. And that's been another learning curve, where it's like, I'm not willing to pretend that I'm in a place that I'm not to do a video. But my plan is, I actually did a couple on a shame attack that I had, and for some reason they didn't record because I had some technical difficulties. But I did a video recently about what to do when you can't get started in the morning, and at the end I put a little tagline on. I tried to show these, record these on shame, but the good news is that I'm sure I'll be having plenty more shame attacks. But, my plan is to do some videos on depression, anxiety, the highly sensitive person. I have a real passion about women and ADD, because I happen to have ADD, and it was not diagnosed until a couple of years ago. And I think it's really common in women. I don't want to get into the argument of does it exist or does it not exist, but I really think that a number of the women that I work with, end up having it. And it makes so much sense when you recognize that that's why you've been feeling overwhelmed, or, you're late to things, or you have a hard time with paperwork, or you keep losing your keys, or, things like that. It just, once you understand that that's what it is, it just makes sense. And what I find is that women stop beating themselves up because they understand that it's not that there's something that's defective with them.
So your YouTube channel is going to be a place where people are getting a lot of you, and they're getting tools, and they're getting, it sounds like it's just a real resource for people who may end up working with you and for people who may not.
And sharing, what I struggle with, because, a lot of what I do is stuff that I work on, I work through. It still comes up for me, not to the extent that it paralyzes me as it did when I was much younger. But I think that's a big part of what I'd like to share is that, if you have anxiety and depression, if you're pushing through stuff, or you've got big stuff going on to the point where it debilitates you, it's going to show up. And so how do you manage that? And how do you walk through that? And how do you not have shame? And how do you break the stigma around that?
Yes. And being open about the fact that sometimes you feel like a lowercase hot mess is part of that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
How many sessions a week do you like to have?
I would love to do 12. I do. I book about 18 a week. A lot of my folks end up going back in the hospital. Yesterday, I had someone who just forgot. I called and he was at Costco. He forgot to come. Mm-hmm. That's hard. Mm-hmm. That's hard. So I overbook, to try and meet my minimum.
And what do you charge? What's your fee right now?
For my private practice, it's $150 for a 50-minute session.
How do you feel about your fee right now?
I feel good about it. When I go into worrying, I wonder if that's what the market can hold. I know that I have so much experience and so much to offer that I think once my videos get traction and people really have a better sense of what I have to offer, I think it's just going to take, folks coming to the new private practice.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. That doesn't seem high to me at all. I mean, not that you asked, but no, since that's part of what I get obsessed with.
Sure.
So, have you had a time where you made a decision in your business that you feel like had a really big impact on the way that things went?
It's hard to say, just because, I feel like I launched the current practice that I'm in, and then I'm launching the practice where I'd like to head. I think making the decision to do the promotional video was a pretty big decision for me. And it's interesting that as I was getting ready and plugged for a couple of days, and the vision that I used on it about the women spinning plates came to me, and I felt that was really what I needed to talk about. And I have to say that since I've done it, I've had some concerns and some feedback that I've gotten that it may not resonate with my ideal clients because they may not be ready to drop the plates. And so I've had doubts about, was that a good choice to do or not? And for right now, I just have to trust that it came to me and I'll put it up. But, it's a place of kind of being in the middle and not really knowing, where in the moment it felt like it was absolutely the right decision to do. And now I'm not so sure. I just get to sit with it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems pretty great what you put together.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's interesting. That's like, is there a perfect message? I mean, because I really love helping therapists identify what their messages are, what they want to say. But it also, when it comes down to it, there isn't one right answer of how to put your message out there.
Right.
So, yeah, that's interesting, though.
Yeah. We'll see. Come back in a year and I'll tell you.
Exactly. That's what I was just thinking. And also my question about a big decision that's kind of changed the trajectory of things. If I ask you that in a year, it might be super clear what it was.
Yeah.
If you were to time travel back to when you were at the beginning of deciding, yes, I'm going to transition into private practice, would you have any advice for the Patricia of that moment?
To be honest with you, Annie, I struggle with this on an ongoing basis. And what I can say is I'm learning that personally is learning to ride the highs and the lows. And I know initially I'd get a cancellation. I'd have to call my husband. It would freak me out. And, I'd be very, very upset. I feel like it's like the distance between the highs and the lows is getting smaller, so that while I still get disappointed and frustrated when I don't meet the numbers that I need for the week and things still worry and concern me, I'm just really working on trusting the process. And I feel like I'm really in that place right now. I know where I want to go. I'm doing all the things that I need to do. I just have to trust that I'm going to get there. And so maybe, it will be like really to trust even more than I am, to let go even more than I am, and to know that, all I have to do is suit up and show up and be myself. I'm a hard worker. I push really hard. If anything, I need to play more, that I really have a hard time identifying what play is and doing play. And so I just got to trust that over time that will come together. And that's not a very linear answer, but that's what you get.
No, that's perfect. It's perfect. Advice isn't always linear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will you help me with a listener question?
I would love to.
Listener question.
Okay, so this person asked, I'm considering adding a welcome video to my website. How long should it be and what should it include? Should I pay someone to create it or can I do it myself? What would your take on this be?
My understanding is that videos are great, not only for SEO because it keeps people on your webpage longer, which is going to increase your SEO, but I think clients want to get a sense of who you are. So I would definitely say do a video. There are lots of places where you can go to learn to do your own video. If you have the budget to have somebody do it for you, it's nice because you just show up. But if not, I think especially with the technology we have today with, our computers and our iPhones, and you want to talk about who your ideal client is, what their pain point is, what you have to offer. And I think that sense of authenticity, so people really get a sense of who you are. People don't want to see the polished you. I see so many profiles with especially young therapists, but I look at their profiles and I don't have a sense of who they are. There's nothing warm and welcoming, and it's all, I believe in the strength of the therapeutic relationship and the alliance and building. And I finish reading it and I'm like, I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
So I think the more you can really show some of your own humanity, that's what people like.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. I think the part about how long should it be, because you answered everything else that I got nothing to add. It was awesome.
I think under 3 minutes.
I do too. I think ideally, these things are always changing. So as of today, I think, between 1 and 2 minutes is usually perfect because people will watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And I'll link to your site, of course, so that people can see how you did all that.
That'd be great.
I guess one thing I would add is you're going to have other places on your website to talk about the experience you have and your education and stuff like that. So this absolutely goes with what Patricia said. I wouldn't worry about that being in your welcome video. Like you want to be just talking to them. Like if someone came into your office for the first time and they were feeling a little bit nervous, like, I don't know if this is the right therapist for me, you would probably start connecting with them and talking to them about them, right? Like you probably wouldn't have them come into your office and start saying, oh, you don't need to worry because I've got this training and that training. So it would be the same in your video.
Right. There's some great tools out there if you are interested in doing your own video. And if you want, I can talk to you about that, Annie. You can put it in the show notes.
Absolutely. I will put that in the show notes. And I know Ernesto is a great resource and a leader in this.
Oh, he's amazing.
What's the best place for therapists to find you and throw compliments at you?
I like compliments. I like lots of compliments, please. Best place is my website, Patricia Young, lcsw.com.
Perfect. And you know what's cool is that therapists actually listeners do contact guests and throw compliments at them, which I love
Do they?
hearing about. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because they feel like they know you.
Oh, that's great.
Awesome. This has been amazing, Patricia. I really, really want to thank you.
Oh, thanks for giving me this opportunity, Annie. It's been great.
Here's an idea to try.
Idea to try.
What's the thing that might move your business forward, but it feels a little scary or even a little cringy? What's the move that makes you feel vulnerable and even like a small h hot mess, but you know it would be a good idea? Now, what's one small step you could take to make that business move? So, for example, if your thing is doing public speaking, maybe your first small move is just choosing a topic. I'd love to know how it goes. Thanks for listening to Therapist Clubhouse. I've been getting questions from some of you about how you can work with me and get my help making your business extraordinary. Come on over to coachingwithannie.com. The Superpower Method for Therapists program is a small group program that becomes available 2 times a year. It's also an individual program that you go through one-on-one with me. The individual program is available now, and I've got room for 3 more people to enroll before the end of 2017. Go to coachingwithannie.com and click on the Superpower Method to learn more and apply. I'll see you next week.
Let me say that that's a terrible way of asking that question, Patricia. Let me try that again.